All right, we're all in our places, and we are looking into 1 Samuel chapter 6. Remember, the Philistines and the Israelites got into a battle. This is around the time of Eli and his depraved sons who served as priests were doing some awful things. God's disciplining that family line as well as the Israelites as a whole. And they lose the battle to the Philistines. Philistines take the Ark of the Covenant. And they take the Ark of the Covenant to one of their main cities. What was the name of the first city they took it to? Uh-oh, this is a quiz. Huh? Well, they started out around that place, but they took it to a Philistine city. There were 5 Philistine cities. And they didn't take it to Gath. Samson destroyed that palace of Dagon. They took it to another one. I'll give you your foothold, Ashdod. All right, they went from Ashdod. They did end up going to that city of Goliath after that. They took it to Gath, the Ark of the Covenant. Why did they move it from Ashdod to Gath? Because something happened. What was it? Ark of the Covenant, Philistine city, didn't go well. Does a week make this much difference? There's somebody at home right now saying the answer if they're watching. I know they are. What happened at Ashdod? What happened at Gath? And what was the third city? Anybody remember that one? Oh, my. Ekron. Very good. So they took it to all 3 of those cities, and all 3 cities the same thing happened. What happened? Flowers fell from the sky? What took place? They were punished. Punished in what way? Now, Dagon fell over in Ashdod, that's true, but there was a sickness on the people. What was it? Tumors. They got all kinds of tumors. And people were dying. It was devastating. And Ashdod had enough of that, and they said, we got to get this thing out of here. Let's take it over to Gath. So that's another one of the 5 Philistine cities. And so they sent it down the road to Gath. Same thing happened at Gath. Gath said, we've got to get rid of it. And they sent it on to Ekron. And when that thing started coming down the road to Ekron, the people start crying out to heaven. They want to get rid of the thing. They determine they're going to send it back. They want this thing sent back to the Israelites. Chapter 6. Now the ark of the Lord had been in the country of the Philistines 7 months. And the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners, saying, what shall we do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us how we shall send it to its place. They said, if you send away the ark of the God of Israel, do not send it empty, but you shall surely return it to him, return to him a guilt offering. Then you will be healed, and it will be known to you why his hand is not removed from you. Then they said, what shall be the guilt offering which we shall return to him? And they said, 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines, for 1 plague was on all of you and on your lords. So you shall make likenesses of your tumors and likenesses of your mice that ravage the land. And you shall give glory to the God of Israel. Perhaps he will ease his hand from you, your gods, and your land. Why then do you harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened their hearts when he had severely dealt with them? Did they not allow the people to go, and they departed? Now therefore take and prepare a new cart and 2 milk cows. My translation looks like milch cows, but it's milk cow in other translations. That's all it really means. On which there has never been a yoke. And hitch the cows to the cart and take their calves home away from them. Take the ark of the Lord and place it on the cart, and put the articles of gold which you returned to him as a guilt offering in a box by its side. Then send it away that it may go. Watch. If it goes up by the way of its own territory to Beth Shemesh, then he has done us this great evil. But if not, then we will know that it was not his hand that struck us. It happened to us by chance. So here is the plan that they have. And verse 2, when they're trying to figure out what kind of plan they should make, they send for the priests and the diviners. Who are the priests and diviners? More importantly, who are they not? If you're going to be handling the Ark of the Covenant, who should they be? Levites. These are not Levites. These are Philistines. These are pagans. What do they know about the Ark of the Covenant? What do they know about God? What do they know about transporting it? They don't know anything. They're making stuff up. They're just devising in their own minds, this seems like a good way to do it. And so they're just conjuring up ideas, but they are not Levites, and they don't understand anything about approaching God and pleasing God. Verse 3, they say, when you send it, don't send it empty. Are they going to put something inside the Ark of the Covenant? Is that what that means? They're going to do what? Put in the cart with it. You look down about verse 8, and they have a box beside it. What they mean is, don't send it back just by itself. You send it back, but beside it is another box with their golden tumors and their golden mice. So they send this guilt offering along with it, by the side of it, in a second box. So that's what they mean by not sending it away empty. Now look at their attitude toward God. Remember how this started out when they beat the Israelites in the battle, and they steal the Ark of the Covenant from them, and they are taking it back to Ashdod. This is triumphant victory. Dagon is mightier than the God of Israel. We won the battle, and they're just all excited about it. But now look at verse 3. They have to send what kind of an offering? Guilt. Now they have guilt. So now they understand they have transgressed the God of Israel, and they're sending a guilt offering. Verse 5, now they want to give glory to the God of Israel. Back in chapter 5, verse 7, the hand of God is severe on us and on Dagon, our God. So now it's a guilt offering. They want to give glory to the God of Israel. They understand the hand of the God of Israel is severe on them and their God Dagon. They know God is mightier than Dagon is. They had offended God. They pick 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice. Why do they pick first 5? 5 Philistine cities. If you would track that over to verse 17 in chapter 6, these are the golden tumors which the Philistines returned for a guilt offering to the Lord. 1 for Ashdod, 1 for Gaza, 1 for Ashkelon, 1 for Gath, 1 for Ekron. So that's the meaning of the number 5. And then the tumors and the mice go together with the kind of plague that's upon them. Almost has a bubonic ring to it, with tumors and mice involved and that sort of thing. The Bible doesn't identify any more about it than there are mice and there are tumors involved in it, and it's a devastating thing. So they're sending this guilt offering, and they are just in their own innovative mind coming up with how they're going to send the ark back, what they're going to send with it, and what it's all going to mean. That's something in the human mind that they come up with, and so they're going to go about to do that. God doesn't require the tumors in the mice. God doesn't require them to send these golden relics. He didn't ask for that. God didn't ask for a new cart. God didn't ask for milk cows to draw the ark. He didn't ask for any of that. This is something they're coming up with. But they do recognize God. And they realize that He is in some way punishing them. They're fearful, and they want God to leave them alone. So they're going to return the ark to God, and they remember something, verse 6, from a few hundred years ago. What was it? What did they remember from several hundred years ago? The Egyptians, Pharaoh, the Red Sea, the plagues on Egypt. That is still fame. That is famous all the way through those years. And they remember that. That's gone down in history. They know about it. They remember about it. And they don't want to hang on the way the Egyptians did. They want to let this thing go wherever it wants to go and be done with it. So they decide to move it with what kind of a cart? What specifically? A new cart. That seems reverential. That seems like they're trying to respect God. We're not going to just use any old cart. We're going to build a brand new cart that's never been used before, just for this purpose, unique, belonging to the God of Israel. We're going to build a brand new cart. And then we're going to get 2 cows. And what have those 2 cows never done before? Never been in a yoke. I don't know anything about cows. Well, I know some things, but I don't know much. I don't know much about animals. Anybody know about cows and how they would respond to being in a yoke if they'd never been in one before? Anybody know anything about that? I know bulls don't like to get ridden, but I don't know about cows that have never been in a yoke. I would think that'd be an odd thing. Anybody know anything? Okay. So Logan says, they probably wouldn't like it too well. They'd probably thrash around some, and if you're anywhere around there, you may be in trouble. So animals that have never been yoked before aren't going to really know what that is or what to do with it, and it might be a thing that they would sort of rebel against. And so that was my thought, just thinking about it. They may not like that, might not know how to react to it very well. And these are milk cows. These are the kind that have just had calves. So calves would be nursing, and mamas and babies would be pretty close. And they're going to take the calves, and they're going to send them off to the barn somewhere and lock them up away from their mothers. And they're going to put yokes on these cows that have never had a yoke on them before. And they're going to hook them up to this brand new cart. They're going to put the Ark of the Covenant on it, and they're going to send it away. Where's all that idea come from? Not God. Yes. Human thought. This is what we call innovation. This is inventing something. This is what they think is best. Now, I want you to fast forward. Keep your finger in 1 Samuel 6. You'll be able to remember this real easy because we're going from 1 Samuel 6 to 2 Samuel chapter 6. So I'd like you to go over there. In our account, this Ark of the Covenant is finally going to come to rest at a place called Kiriath Jearim. And it's going to stay there for 20 years. At that time, King David is going to Kiriath Jearim, and he's going to pick the Ark of the Covenant up and take it to Jerusalem. Now, I want you to look at 2 Samuel 6, particularly verse 3. They placed the ark of God on a new cart, that they might bring it from the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill, and Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, were leading the new cart. And then down in verse 6, but when they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah reached out toward the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen nearly upset it. New cart, cows, pulling it. Where'd David get that idea from? Where'd that come from? Didn't come from God. How did God say to move the Ark of the Covenant? Who's going to move the Ark of the Covenant? Levites, priesthood, Kohathites. So God said to do that, and how did He say to do it? A new cart? Nope. How are they going to do it? Golden overlaid poles through rings in the ark. And you know the Philistines, and you know David, they're looking at the Ark of the Covenant, and they see these rings on it, on the corners. Probably thinking, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what that's about. Maybe just decoration. Nope. That's where you put the poles through, and they carried it on their shoulders. That's the way it was supposed to be carried. But they didn't carry it that way. David didn't get the idea from God. If he got it from anywhere, he got it from the Philistines some 20 years previous. And he's taking it and carrying it the same way. How should we do things in the Lord's church today? Should we follow a business model of the corporate world? Should we run the church like that? Why would we? Well, it's organized, seems to work for business, and so what? It seemed to work for the Philistines when they brought it from Ekron over there to Beth Shemesh to the Israelites. The cart seemed to work, but it wasn't right, and it didn't work ultimately. Should we follow the business world as the way that we run the Lord's church? Why would we? Should we look at religious neighbors and copy what they're doing because, well, it seems to work? They're bringing in people. It seems to work. Should we copy them? Why would we? What we should do in the Lord's church is consult the Lord's book and see how He has organized His church in the New Testament pages. How does He tell us to worship Him in the New Testament pages? How does He tell us to be saved in the New Testament pages? That's the way we should function in the Lord's church. We should not copy the world. We should not copy man-made religion. We should do it the way God says. That was David's mistake in moving the ark. And even though the Philistines did it, it's not the way God instructed for it to be done. And catastrophe was waiting to happen. And that is what happened in the days of David. Now the Philistines sort of formulate this test in their minds in verses 7 through 9 that they're going to hook these two cows up to this new ark, have their guilt offering on it, have the ark on it, and they're going to send it on its way. And they're going to send it and see what happens, and see if these cows take this ark and they just move in a straight line and head all the way to Beth Shemesh where the Israelites are. Are they just going to take it straight there or not? Or are they going to veer to the left? Are they going to veer to the right? Are they going to try to get back to their calves? Are they going to go to the field and start munching on grass? What are they going to do? But if they take a straight line, that means God's behind all this stuff. And then we'll know for sure. So they devised this test, and evidently God's willing to work with it, even though that's not what He instructed them to do. And they have to take that Ark of the Covenant some 8 to 10 miles southeast of Ekron. Part of that's going to be in a riverbed, part of that's going to be uphill, and they want to watch it. No man is leading it. They just shoe the cows and see where they go. And if they go where they want them to go, that seems to be a signal to them about that. And that is exactly what's going to happen there. Now, verses 10 through 12, as they begin to execute the plan. Then the men did so, and took 2 milk cows, and hitched them to the cart, and shut up their calves at home. They put the ark of the Lord on the cart, and the box with the golden mice and the likenesses of their tumors. And the cows took the straight way in the direction of Beth-Shemesh. They went along the highway, lowing as they went, and did not turn aside to the right or to the left. And the lords of the Philistines followed them to the border of Beth-Shemesh. So here's this idea that just begins to gel in our minds. The cows are very agreeable to the yoke they're in, and they don't go any other place. They go from point A to point B, 8 to 10 miles, and take it directly to this town of Beth-Shemesh. It's interesting that the Philistines then say, they put together, okay, here's our ailments. Here's when they begin, when the ark shows up. Here's when they end, when the ark goes away. Here's these 2 milk cows that have never been in a yoke, but they accept the yoke. They take a straight path from point A to point B. They don't look for their calves, and they don't go anywhere else. They take a straight path there. And just putting those few things together, this must be God. This must be God. Look around us today, and you consider this beautiful creation. You look at the planets, the stars, the rotation of the earth, the gravity of the earth, the oxygen on the earth, the construction of even a human eye, much less the human body, and trees and photosynthesis, and all of the other things in the food chain, the way animals are created. You look at all of these things and how they function, and you see all this massive design in all of creation, and so much of our world can't put that together with that and that and that and say there must be a design, therefore there must be a designer, this must be God. Philistines put together a handful of things. This must be God. We have all of this massive evidence around us, and our world can't realize it is designed with a designer. It must be God. It doesn't make any sense. Even these pagans could put together this little bit and realize God is and is behind this. So they move on, and we're down to verses 13 through 18. Any questions or comments before we do that? Beginning in verse 13, anything else? Yes, Bill. Pardon me? How did they load the Ark of the Covenant? One, they loaded it wrong. They loaded it where they shouldn't have. And how did they do it without God killing them? God was killing them for messing with His ark. That's the plague That's what's been going on with them. But at the moment they touched it, why did God not strike them dead as He did Uzzah, is the question. I don't know, Bill. It doesn't tell me. We can have some conjecture with that. They had not been trained in it. They had not been taught in it. They had not been given the Old Testament covenant. It didn't belong to the Philistines. They were not trained in the law of Moses, nor was it ever given to them. Those are elements of the Mosaic law. God taught them enough that they shouldn't be messing with it, didn't belong to them, not their property, and they can't manhandle God or anything that belongs to Him. And He was striking them dead through the plague, but not according to the covenant that was not theirs. That's the best answer I've got for that, and but that's the only reason I can think of. Whether I'm right or wrong, if somebody comes up with a better answer, let me know. But that's where I'm at with it. They were not given that covenant, but God was dealing with them in a just fashion. All right, that's a good comment. Now down to verses 13 through 18, as the ark arrives at Beth Shemesh. Now the people of Beth Shemesh were reaping their wheat harvest in the valley. And they raised their eyes and saw the ark. And they were what? They were thrilled. They were glad, filled with joy. Here comes the Ark of the Covenant. And they were glad to see it. The cart came into the field of Joshua the Bethshemite and stood there where there was a large stone. And they split the wood of the cart and offered the cows as a burnt offering to the Lord. The Levites took down the ark of the Lord and the box that was with it, in which were the articles of gold, and put them on the large stone. And the men of Bethshemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrifices that day to the Lord. When the 5 lords of the Philistines saw it, they returned to Ekron that day. These are the golden tumors which the Philistines returned for the guilt offering to the Lord, one for Ashdod, one for Gaza, one for Ashkelon, one for Gath, one for Ekron, and the golden mice according to the number of all the cities of the Philistines belonging to the 5 lords. That's a lot of mice. But they said that they used 5 to represent all of those cities. So 5 golden mice, 5 golden tumors. But remember this, they have 5 main cities. But there are regions around that and smaller areas. And so the 5 are standing for the 5 major cities, but then all the cities around them as well. So that's what they do. The people of Beth Shemesh see that, and they take them out, understand what it represents. And so then the large stone on which they set the ark of the Lord is a witness to this day in the field of Joshua the Bethshemite. So here's the reception of the ark by the people of God. They're filled with gladness, but this is somewhat like the parable of the soils. You remember how there were the rocky places in the parable of the soils. And it represented people who didn't have much depth to them. And so they immediately received the Word of God with joy, but then trouble and tribulation comes along, and the Word of God fails in their life. And it leaves just as quickly as it came. That's sort of like the people of Beth Shemesh. They are immediately filled with gladness when they see the Ark of the Covenant, but they don't know how to live with it. They don't know how to truly receive it. They don't know what to do with it. They make some mistakes with it, and tribulation and trouble comes upon them the way it did on the Philistines, and they want to get rid of the Ark of the Covenant. So at first, there's great joy. They don't know how to live with it, and trouble comes instead, and now they want to get rid of it. Now, the people of Beth Shemesh, they're going to make an offering. When they see the Ark of God returning to them, immediately they want to give a sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice do they give? What did they offer? The cart is the new wood, so they bust up the cart for the wood of the burnt offering. And then the 2 cows that drew it, they sacrificed those. Let me ask you this. Did the people of Beth Shemesh sacrifice anything? Did it cost them anything? Do you remember King David when he sinned with the census? And there was a plague on the people and they were dying by the droves. And he comes to the threshing floor of Araunah. And Araunah says, David, you can have the wood that I have here. You can break up this plow or whatever I've got. You can take my animals. I'll give them all to the king to make his offering. And David said, no, I will not sacrifice to the Lord that which costs me nothing. And David bought the threshing floor of Araunah for 50 shekels of silver. And then he made an offering of those things. But David refused to make an offering out of something that somebody else sacrificed, and it cost David nothing. He's just going to sacrifice what they had. He wouldn't do it. What I'm saying is the people of Beth Shemesh, yeah, they gave a burnt offering to the Lord, but it cost them nothing. It wasn't anything they owned, nothing they gave up. It was furnished by the Philistines. When we make an offering to God today, whatever that might be, in worship, in service, in whatever way you can think of, it needs to be more than a token offering. What does it cost us? Is it in spirit and truth? Is that how we're worshiping? Is that how we're serving? Are we truly in the offering? Does it cost us anything? Or is it furnished? Coming to a Sunday morning worship service and observing the worship that other people give costs you nothing. To listen to a good sermon and say amen and go home and do nothing costs you nothing. Do we give token offerings to God that other people furnish around us, and we're mainly observers to it, or are we really involved in it? Does it cost us something? So that is a lesson, at least in application, that we might be able to draw from this particular scene. They make their offering, and then in verse 18, notice the wording at the end, the last line of verse 18. The large stone on which they set the ark of the Lord is a witness to this day in that field. What does that tell you about the timing of this? By the way, that stone in that field is a witness to this day. What's that tell you about timing? This was written quite a while after the event. This is recorded long after the event. It is still a witness to this day, at the time of the writing. Something to draw the memory back to it. But it's still a witness to this day, as if a good amount of time has passed at the recording of this particular information. It is, as you pass by, it's a historical marker. You ever pass those on your trips down the road? And there's a little sign, historical marker at such and such a place. I don't know that I've ever stopped to look at a historical marker. Maybe once or twice at the most all my life. And that was just by chance. I probably didn't make a special stop. I just happened to be stopped and noticed that one was there. But I didn't make a special stop to notice it. Historical markers are in a place for a reason. And they mark something, a memory, a lesson that we should remember. And that's what that was, that stone in that field. Comments? Ideas? Right. Are they in the middle of the Philistines? Okay, that is, let me see if I've got this for you. Okay, yeah, okay, I want to talk about that. Here's what I want you to just picture in your mind. They don't even know the Philistines are there. They're hiding. The Philistines are hiding back behind stuff at a distance, seeing where the ark goes. But the people of Beth-Shemesh, they are Israelites. That's an Israelite town, and they don't even know the Philistines are back there watching. When they get to Beth-Shemesh, there are Levites there, and they are the ones who take care of the ark at that point. But there is something really interesting about that. To me, this is a point of the inspiration of the Bible. If you go all the way back, now you are at the tail end of the period of the Judges. That period of time is some 350 or more years, period of the Judges. Go back all of that time, go back to the book of Joshua, go back to Joshua chapter 21, when the campaign of conquest is finished and they begin to divide up the land. And they're dividing it between the tribes of Israel. And back in Joshua chapter 21, verse 9, they begin to list cities in the tribe of Judah and Simeon. And Joshua chapter 21, verse 16 mentions Beth-Shemesh. And they are talking about the cities now that will belong to the Levites. They would receive 48 cities for the Levites to live in. And back in Joshua chapter 21, Beth-Shemesh is one of the cities that belongs to the Levites. Lo and behold, 350 plus years later, you come down to this text and you have the Philistines of Ekron sending the Ark of the Covenant back to Beth-Shemesh. Who's there? Levites. That covers hundreds of years of time. And you find this little note back in Joshua chapter 21 that Beth-Shemesh was going to be a dwelling city of the Levites. Now you see, all this time later, this incidental mention that you would think is seemingly unimportant, that Levites are there to receive the ark. It is not unimportant. This is one of those little things in the Bible that links together in inspiration. Levitical city, Levitical city. Levites are there to receive the Ark of the Covenant. Those little blurbs in your Bible are significant in meaning and inspiration. Now, you get on to verses 19 through the end of this chapter and into the first couple verses of chapter 7, and you see the people of Beth-Shemesh, even the Levites, who mishandle the Ark of the Covenant. They're not treating it the way they're supposed to, and trouble comes to them. If you go back to Numbers chapter 4, it will give detail about the duties of various branches of the tribe of Levi. Kohathites would be in charge of transporting the holy objects, including the Ark of the Covenant. Numbers 3, verse 31. Now their duties involve the ark, the table, the lampstand, the altars, the utensils of the sanctuary, the screen, and all the service concerning them. Numbers chapter 4, the first 15 verses. Aaron and his sons, who were priests, would cover those objects. They would cover the Ark of the Covenant, so that when the Kohathites came in to move it, they would never actually lay eyes on it, lest they die. Now, when you get to 1 Samuel 6, verse 19, he struck down some of the men of Bethshemesh because they had looked not only at the ark, but into the ark. This is sort of an Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark moment, if you can go back to 1981 and remember that. The people of Bethshemesh look in that ark. And he struck down of all the people, and your translation may be different from my translation, 50,070 men, and the people mourned because the Lord had struck the people with a great slaughter. The men of Bethshemesh said, "Who is able to stand before the Lord, this holy God, and to whom shall he go up from us?" So they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kiriath-Jearim, saying, "The Philistines have brought back the ark of the Lord. Come down and take it up to you." They want the ark of God out of there. Did you notice how they saw it coming down the road? And they were so glad. And now the word is they are in mourning. See how quickly that changed? Next week, I want to come back to that, talk some more about this incident. We'll read down into chapter 7 a little bit, and I want to put together some ideas for you and see how that ark ends up going now from Bethshemesh to Kiriath-Jearim and lands there, and whose house it goes to. And we'll develop some more lessons from that. Thank you for your time this morning. We're dismissed from class.